This is a $160 Pocket Linux computer, and this is its product page. I have not held one. Almost nobody has. It's still a pre-order, but I read every line of that page, cross-checked the pictures against the spec table, and found 4 things you would only notice if you went looking. None of them are scandals. All 4 of them change what you think you're buying. Let's go through them with the seller's own photographs on screen. First, the honest framing. A pre-order is a bet. You pay now, the hardware ships later, and the only evidence available to you beforehand is the seller's own storefront. So that storefront is the primary source, and I'm going to treat it like one. Every photograph you see in this video is theirs. Every number is theirs. Where I'm drawing a conclusion they didn't state, I'll say so out loud. Let's start with what the thing actually is, because the shell hides it well. Underneath, it's a Walnut Pi 02W single-board computer running an Allwinner H618 chip in a 3D printed case. And look at what's on the screen in their own photograph, because it's the most honest thing on the entire page. A login prompt, uptime, processor load, temperature, that's it. There is no desktop environment, no icons, no windows, no file manager. The seller says so directly in the FAQ Lightweight Linux, no desktop UI. That's not a limitation they're hiding, it's the actual product, and if that image looks appealing to you, you are the customer. If it looks like a broken computer, you are not. Here's their complete technical specification, reproduced faithfully. 1 GB of memory, swappable to more by replacing the board, a 3.5-inch screen at 40 by 320, a micro SD card required, a battery and power board, a battery and power board, a GPIO header, and then look at the bottom row, which I added networking. It isn't there. There is no Wi-Fi row, no Ethernet row, no connectivity section at all. On a device whose headline uses RSS and Calling Cloud AI, that's a strange thing to leave out, especially given what their own photographs show. That is an Ethernet socket, RJ45, with the little link and activity LEDs photographed by the seller on the side of the device, and beneath it the micro SD slot. Neither appears anywhere in the specification table. Now, I want to be fair about what this means. It means the spec table is incomplete, not that the product is misrepresented. The board is a 2W part, which in this family normally implies wireless, and there's clearly wired networking too. But if you were trying to work out how this thing gets online before buying it, the spec sheet would not tell you. You'd have to squint at a product photo, which is what I just did. Now, how does it compare to the obvious alternatives? This is the seller's own comparison table, and it's mostly fair. Against the PicoCalc, which is a microcontroller running BSX-style firmware on 264 kilobytes, running real Linux isn't a close call. Those are different categories of machine. Against the CardputerZero's 512 megabytes, the SharkDeck doubles the memory. But notice, they left their own loss in the table. The PicoCalc screen is bigger and squarer. The honest summary is that the SharkDeck wins on memory and on running a real operating system. It does not win on the display. Right, the 4 things. Thing 1, scroll far enough down, you hit a panel headed Multi-Protocol Power, reading 1 device, many tools, Sub-GHz, NFC, RFID, infrared, GPIO, USB-C, and micro SD. That's a hacker's wish list, and it is not supported anywhere else on the page. The technical specifications list GPIO and UAR. The what's included list contains no radio at all. I don't think this is deliberate, and here's my reasoning. This seller's other products genuinely are radio and RFID tools. This looks like storefront-wide branding pasted onto a product that doesn't have that hardware. But if you're buying it to sniff sub-gigahertz signals, read the spec table, not the banner. Quick break. Everything I just checked. The CVE record, the vendor's own rating, the patch date, that is a phase 0 checklist. It is free at hiddenstatedrift.com/verify. If you want the version where we run it against your stack, that is the mastermind. Links below. Thing 2, and this is the one most likely to disappoint somebody. The page carries a badge reading AI ready, Claude, Gemini, and OpenAI compatible. I want to be careful here because I'm about to go past what they actually wrote. They never say the word API. That's my inference. but it's the only inference that survives contact with 1 gigabyte of memory, because at that size you cannot run a serious language model locally. You'd be limited to very small quantized models doing very small things. So AI ready almost certainly means the terminal can call somebody else's models over the network. That is genuinely useful. It also depends entirely on a connection and on an API key you pay for separately. And it is not what most people hear when a device says AI. Thing 3, and I'm going to undersell this one deliberately because I nearly got it wrong. The two big illustration panels on the page are AI generated images. You don't have to guess. The store serves them under file names that say ChatGPT image and the date they were made. Now, here's the part I want to be straight about. I initially thought the render had invented a fake keyboard because it shows a key labeled BQ. Then I looked at the high resolution product photograph, and the real device has a BBQ key too. The render is accurate. So this isn't deception, it's decoration, and it's completely routine in online retail. The only fair criticism is that the panel captioned built-in GPIO expansion header doesn't actually show the GPIO header. It shows the keyboard. Thing 4, and it's the one that will actually cost somebody a weekend. The reviews section currently reads 1.00 out of 5 from a single review. The buyer wrote, "Item malfunctioning, not booting up, would have to self-configure the OS or screen." Now read the seller's public reply, which is the most useful paragraph on the page. "The operating system runs from the microSD card. There is no internal storage, so without a properly prepared card, the device will not boot, and they sell a variant with no card in the box, which means that buyer's hardware was almost certainly fine. They opened it, powered it on, and got a black screen, because the computer they bought didn't include the part that makes it a computer." One review tells you very little about build quality. It tells you a great deal about a checkout page. Now let me argue the other side, because 4 criticisms in a row is not a fair portrait. That is the real GPIO header. In a real photograph, 3.3 volts, 5 volts, ground, the serial pins and 8 general purpose pins. That's genuinely useful, and it's the thing the AI panel forgot to show. And because there's no desktop, you are forced onto the command line for everything. Joining Wi-Fi, installing packages, generating SSH keys, using Git. That friction is not a defect, it's the teaching mechanism. The honest counterweight is documentation. A Raspberry Pi has a decade of tutorials behind it, and the Walnut Pi and All-Winner ecosystem is younger and much thinner. You'll debug more and find fewer answers when you do. So, practically, 1. This is beta, and that's not my editorializing. Their FAQ says in writing that they are actively improving the device, the software, the GPIO support, and the battery performance based on customer feedback. You are buying version 0.9. 2. Buy the 32 gigabyte version with the operating system pre-installed. The seller recommends it on the same page. And thing 4 is what happens when you don't. 3. 1 gigabyte is fine for scripting. SSH and GPIO work, and it is not an AI workstation, whatever the badge implies. And credit where it's due, because I spent this whole video picking at their page. Plenty of companies ship version 0.9 and call it version 2. This one puts the word beta in the product title, admits in its own FAQ that GPIO support and battery life are unfinished, and answers its single bad review honestly and in public. The banner overreaches and the memory card situation needs to be far louder at checkout. But nobody here is pretending this is a finished product. So, 4 things. A banner promising radios the spec sheet doesn't list. An AI badge that means the cloud, not the device. Illustration panels drawn by a machine. And a memory card that is quietly the entire computer. Put them together, and you don't get a scam. You get a small company shipping beta hardware slightly faster than its own product page can keep up with, which is worth knowing, because a pre-order means you pay first and find out second. If you want one, buy the 32 gigabyte version. Expect to do some reading and don't expect the AI to run on the device. Pre-orders close August 31st. Everything I showed you is on the page linked below. Go check it yourself. That's the entire point.